Hey guys, happy All-Star Game break. Graham and Chris back here with you again. Man, what a blast this week has been in baseball. The Dodgers end the official first half of the season, if you will, with the highest record. Clayton Kershaw has the most wins in baseball, throws a complete game. And Chris, we had one hell of an All-Star weekend in a city that doesn't give a crap about baseball. And did Aaron Judge manage to rewrite the ground rules for an entire Major League Stadium with one swing of the bat? We will get to that as we put the ball in play on this special All-Star Game edition of Out of Left Field. A little bit different this week. This is going to kind of be the filler for last week and also going through the All-Star break. It's not going to have really any baseball until getting into the coming weekend. So, man, I know you and I both watched the Derby. You went to a Derby watch party. There is no doubt right now that baseball has found the magic spell for their kind of all-star game festivity, and it has by far surpassed anything in the four major sports. They have found what makes this game the best, and that's drama.
Absolutely. And the home run derby was your first taste of it. It was full of it, right? You're talking about a home run derby where they've not only have they proceeded with the original change from 10 outs to a timed hitting, but now they've gone and added seeds. And I think you and I both agree that we really like the seeding idea because it adds additional drama. Instead of just having the top four home run hitters go through, now we have two guys going head-to-head. The winner of that matchup goes through to the next round. And the first round is where all the drama started. Every single matchup was within one home run of each other.
I was definitely torn because I wanted Justin Bour to go on. I mean, he had that place just electrified, even more than Stanton. And I mean, and Stanton's comeback was something to behold. But I really wanted to see Bour have a chance to go to the next round. But that means he would have had to beat Aaron Judge, who I also wanted to see advance. I know you picked Judge, kind of gave you first pickings. I took Stanton because I thought, hey, this is going to be a great opportunity. I think. Miguel Sano kind of just everything fell into the right area for him to make it through. The seeding worked out nicely. But who would have thought Gary Sanchez would have knocked out the hometown hero, the number one seed, the favorite for this thing, and he comes in after the comments by Logan Morrison, the first baseman for the Rays, and absolutely, I don't want to say embarrassed because everyone had a blast, but took the entire stadium by surprise. And they were, the Marlins Park, the fish for this home run derby. I mean, it was standing room only. You couldn't move. It was you know what to butt, as we used to say in the Army, which will keep it clean. But everybody was just shoulder to shoulder. There was no room to move, and it was as electric inside as it was outside that ballpark.
No, it was, and it was probably the most fun I've had watching a home run derby in about a decade. It's just was an incredible amount of drama, an incredible amount of fun, and to watch Giancarlo Stanton go down in that first round after a valiant effort to come back against an unexpected, I think, 17 home runs from Gary Sanchez to open up the night or to open up the round. I think everybody kind of took a step back and went, whoa, wait a minute. Broke my bracket right off the bat.
I guess he's healthy.
Right. In fact, if you look at the brackets left and right, on the left side of the bracket, you have Stanton and Sanchez, Moustakas and Sano. Both my left side of the brackets were broken in the first round. Funny enough, though, the right side of my bracket went all the way through correct to the final round, including the champion Aaron Judge. But I want to get back to what you said earlier about Justin Bour, who really, really lit that place up. And in fact, I think injected the biggest amount of excitement because nobody expected Justin Bour to stand in there and hit 22 home runs. And when he did, I think you and me and everybody were like, oh, wait a minute. Stanton's already gotten knocked out. Now it looks like Judge might be getting knocked out because Justin Bour just brought it. And I was worried because I really wanted to see Aaron Judge go through the next round. I really wanted to see him win. And when he stepped in and he took his first swing, I stood up and I looked at the people I was with at the party and I went, that's it. This contest is over. Aaron Judge is going to win the home run derby this year because there was no effort in that swing. And it looked like a pop fly that was going to end up in the little leaguer's mitts somewhere in right center field, and it went over the wall. And
speaking of, how about the catches in the outfield? I'm used to seeing every single ball drop, and those guys were shagging them. I'm like, high five, kids.
Wait a minute, did you see that kid go up and try to rob Charlie Blackmon?
No, that one I didn't see.
He tried to Charlie Blackmon. Oh, yeah. He went up. He got the glove all the way up over the wall and everything.
But speaking of Judge, I mean, the guy's going oppo in a home run derby.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And,
yeah.
I mean, and we're talking, it's not just peeking over the wall.
No.
It's 420, 430, 450. I mean, it was the absolute most insane display of power that I have seen from one person ever.
Here's
and
an
like you said,
observation for you. Aaron Judge had earned the additional 30 seconds of time by hitting 2 home runs, 440 feet plus, in each round within his first 5 home runs.
Wow.
Let's not forget that he took one over the top Marlin on that just ridiculously ugly statue in center field, 513 feet to center field for the longest ball of the night. 4 home runs over 500 feet that night.
Well, I think his total was almost 3.9 miles of home run distance. It's insane. And I teased this at the start, at the top of the show. Did Aaron Judge really rewrite the ground rules for Marlins Park? So they asked Giancarlo Stanton about this in batting practice. Okay, we're talking about practice. I get that's the wrong sport, but I have to at least go ahead and give that a little bit of love because I said practice. How do you not? All right, let's be honest. So Judge managed to just, not quite tink, but just dent the damn baseball off of the scaffolding of the retractable roof in Miami, which, on a tangent, makes me wonder how crazy far would he have been hitting with the roof open and a clear night in Miami. But then so they asked Stanton, hey, have you ever hit the roof before when it's closed? He said, no, I've never come close. And then Judge does it again in the actual derby. They couldn't even call it a home. Like, it's never happened before. It couldn't be ruled a home run because there wasn't a ground rule to rule that a home run. And I would love to see the science on this, but there was a pretty good possibility that had the roof been open, he would have gone out of the park through the roof. Not out the window, not out the back seats, through the freaking roof. Who does that in Major League? Who does that, period? In cricket, in hockey, who goes out? In football, that's like a field goal going through the uprights, out the stadium, and into the parking lot.
And that's basically what might have happened had that roof been open. So we're in a place now where Aaron Judge may conceivably have been charged for a windshield after that hit had the roof been open that night. Somebody's car would have been damaged because that was a moonshot.
Yeah, I mean, wow. I was blown away by the power of him. And like I said, and Bohr's a guy who, even living in Florida, I don't watch the Marlins a ton. I mean, I for the show, and I've never really seen him display that kind of power. And let's not forget, as we kept going through, I mean, Cody Bellinger was no slouch. Sano, I was a little bit, it didn't quite do it the same for me. But what I love about what baseball is doing with the home run derby is they're still making changes on top of the big changes that they made 2 years ago in Cincinnati. Two years ago is when they went ahead and kicked in the clock. It was supposed to be 5 minutes, made it 4 because of weather, which is the perfect time. They've left it alone. And I think for the last 2 seasons, it was 1 dinger over, I think, 4 1/4 got you extra time. Now it's 2 dingers over 440. Which, okay, well, what's the big deal? The big deal is that Mike Moustakas probably would have had extra time with the old rules. Even with his power, he couldn't hit 2 at 440, lost by 1 because he couldn't get into extra time. You're on the edge of your seat. I mean, I'm sitting here watching with my buddy, and, I mean, you can feel the energy in here. You're excited. You're like, okay, what's going to happen? Is Stanton going to come back? I'm thinking, is Judge going to be knocked out? Oh, no, never mind. It was absolutely.
Let's not forget that despite a great showing in the first round and coming back from a huge deficit of 22 home runs against Bauer, Aaron Judge hit his 23rd home run in that extra time. Now, he did manage to tie it up at the end of regulation with 22, and distance would have probably won him that contest because he did have that 500-plus footer in the first round. But he hit the round-winning home run. I believe distance is the breaker.
I don't remember the last time I've seen ties. I couldn't remember.
Distance was previously the breaker, so I don't know if that's changed or not. I would have to look that up, but I believe distance is the breaker. But he hit that 23rd home run in the 30 seconds of extra time, and had he not been able to accrue that extra time, say he just hit the 500-footer and then everything else was below 440, there's a possibility Aaron Judge doesn't advance. And under the old rules, he would have been given that extra time. I think it's a great addition. I think it's a great change.
You're making me laugh. The possibility Aaron Judge doesn't hit 2 at 440. That is by far the best joke you've ever given on the show.
I have one more sort of mind-blowing statistic about the home run derby for you before we try to move on and go into the All-Star game, which, by the way, was also fantastic. Another nail-biter. 2 of Aaron Judge's home runs were longer than any home run that StatCast has ever tracked since its inception in 2015. Ever. Yeah. Now, I see the look on your face.
I don't know. What do I say to that?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's not easy to render Graham speechless. It doesn't happen very often. The look on his face was just speechless.
I mean, because, as much as baseball is a statistical sport, when you can finally say, yeah, we haven't staticized that before, I'm just like, Judge is a freak, and he deserved to win, and it was a beautiful thing. It's, it's the beauty of the Derby is that, you can get the best hitters from your sport to come in on a consistent basis and put on a show, and it was awesome, absolutely awesome. So, that made way into a great All-Star game. Unfortunately, low scoring, a 2-1, final. And I've heard Buster only mention this a lot with ESPN.
Say unfortunately, and I disagree.
See, to me, yes, I want to see good pitchers pitch, but you're wanting to see you're wanting to see the best players perform offensively more than you are defensively. And I understand your point, and I love good pitching. Well, I know that, but you're wrong. It's okay.
I want to see 2 teams with the best possible rosters that you can put together, which is what you get in the All-Star game. I want to see what they do against each other. That means I want to see low-scoring games with incredible pitching, incredible moves made on defense, but with timely offensive hitting. And when I say timely, I mean 10th inning, Robinson Cano, over the fence.
You want to see a 1-0 game into the 10th, and one guy hit a dinger and walk it off? Is that what you're telling me?
That's how games with excellent players play out. And not just excellent offensive players, but excellent pitchers as well. That's how they play out. Someone makes a mistake, and the game ends.
See, part of what I want, I understand you playing for pride and it's one-on-one, but I would like a point to see pitchers at times, kind of like what we saw at Canho Park. Give the guy one good one to hit. Say, all right, during the at-bat, I'm going to give you one good one. Not saying where it's going to be, what it's going to be.
Canho Park grooved that pitch.
Because it was Cal's last game.
Because it was his last game.
I know that.
Now, in that situation, absolutely, groove him one. But we didn't have a situation like that. 21 first-time All-Stars last night, 21, most ever. And, well, with the exception of the first All-Star game, in which they were all first-time All-Stars. But 21
now,
first-timers.
I did like the fact that, okay, and I get this is weird, and maybe this is the media in me talking, but I like the fact of the interviews and the earwigs on the field. It was like, okay.
No, I did too. I thought it was great.
Cool. Because I wanted to hear, yeah, it was great. Crap! And I mean, just see Harper like on his horse, lay out and look up at the box and go, got it. And
that incredible play that Harper made in the first inning, where he really, really got on it and made that diving catch that saved an extra base hit, that I honestly didn't think he was going to get to.
Yeah.
I wanted to see that play in the second inning when Harper's on the microphone. That's
exactly
what I wanted to see.
Hey, real quick, before we continue, you want to get a picture real quick? Just get a picture together, snap.
Well, I mean, I'm not celebrating my 5,000th game or my 5,000-plus game as an umpire.
No, that wasn't one of the coolest. I mean, as we go behind the mask here on Out of Left Field, we are brought to you by the Grueling Truth Network and MLB Mayhem. Check them out at MLB Mayhem on Twitter and MLB Mayhem on Facebook. That's the best place to find all your stuff on all your teams. Great articles, a lot of good stuff. They bring us to you guys every week. We are the official podcast of MLB Mayhem, and of course, the national broadcast of baseball for the Grueling Truth Network at Grueling Truth on Twitter and thegruelingtruth.net. Of course, you can find Chris in Arizona. No, I'm just kidding. You can find him at Chris_OOLF. I'm Graham_OOLF on Twitter, and of course at OOLeftField and at OLeftField with Chris and Graham on Facebook. So as I said, to go behind the mask, Joe West hit his 5,000th game a couple of weeks ago, and I have on good authority that the assignments come out at least a month in advance of the game, which there's a bigger reason I say that, and we'll get into that here probably in a week. There'll be an umpire who is making news for very surprising reasons, for lack of a better term. But now, truth be told, I was asleep at this point because I was up early this morning and I was down in Miami all day on Tuesday. So I got a message from you. It's like, showing Joe West some love. I'm thinking, what are you talking about? So Nelson Cruz comes to the plate, gives Yadier Molina, who is decked out in gold. I mean, like we thought he was swagged out for the WBC. Dude, he was swagged out for the All-Star game.
I loved that outfit, by the way. It was incredible. Not only was it awesome to look at, but you can see the pitcher's face in his face mask. It was amazing.
Which makes me wonder, like, if it's that reflective, can you see him giving, like, if I'm a hitter, am I scrutinizing his mask, looking for signs, trying to steal something, and I'm at first, got to get a good jump. So here comes Nelson Cruz, and he looks at Joe and hands his phone to Yachty and wants a picture with Joe West, which, I mean, most guys look at Joe West as being the most vilified, umpire, really, of recent memory. Everyone all loves to hate him. He's, he's quick on the hook, this and that. The problem with Joe West is, guys, I hate to tell you, but he's still really, really good, and probably one of the big reasons why, much as you hate to say it, that we don't yet have an automatic strike zone. I want to go ahead and give you this stat, because I know that you probably haven't seen it. Joe West's All-Star game performance, just behind the plate in the All-Star game, a game that's just for fun, right? For fun.
Yeah. Oh, just for fun, tell Chris Sale and Max Scherzer that.
96.8% behind the plate.
Wow.
That would have been the second best of the 2016 World Series, second best of the NLCS and ALCS, and second best of all the 2016 Division Series game. 96.8% behind the plate. You can say whatever you want. Joe West is good. He might be slow. He might not look like he hustles a lot, but he can be where he's got to be, and he knows his job.
Well, I saw him get up and move last night.
Job.
I saw him get up and move last night when the photographer got hit. Joe West was seriously concerned. He thought that there might be a possibility for serious injury. He stopped play, offered to completely stop play to allow the photographer to leave to get medical assistance. He was very responsive to the wishes of the photographer, and he moved over there. I mean, he hustled over there. He hustled for Joe West, but he shuffled over there. He got over there at a solid airborne shuffle and to make sure that the photographer was okay.
Well, I mean, hey, we all know A is for all the way. So, I mean, anyway, just a tip of the cap, a great job, a job that, again, I mean, when you look at how good that is compared to all of the postseason last year, I mean, almost 97%. I mean, about as close to perfection as you get. And yes, you can say, well, an automated zone would be 100%. Okay. But a human being tracking a baseball arriving at home plate in under 0.4 of a second, almost 300 times, being right 97% is amazing.
Okay. And if you're the type of person who says, well, an automated zone would be right 100% of the time, okay, you're right. And that's fair. But let me ask you this. Of that less than 4% that he missed.
Did not think we were getting into this conversation. I'm sorry, guys. Did not mean to go here. Was trying to save this one, but I guess we're going. I'll make it quick. We'll bring up Buster Posey in the MVP. It's okay. We're going to go somewhere even better.
Of the less than 4% of balls and strikes that he missed, how many were pitches that were technically strikes that he called balls that were unhittable? I'm talking about just at the hollow of the knee, painting the inside of the plate, buried behind the back foot, technically went through the strike zone, not a pitch a batter could actually make an offer at, that would have been called a strike by the electronic strike zone, but he called it a ball, in my opinion, correctly because it's not something a hitter can offer at. So you want an electric strike zone because it's the right 100% of the time. Get ready for those pitches to start being called strikes, and you getting really upset when your favorite hitter's sitting on the bench 0 for 4 because he doesn't offer at those pitches.
And I'll briefly say this, and I can send you the video. Big Papi got dumped a couple of years ago by Ron Kulpa. Again, a guy who can be notorious for I'll say baiting, but he can get into up your rear end, which sometimes you want to see those kind of confrontations between umpires and managers. He tossed Big Papi, who was complaining about a strike that the catcher caught with his mitt on the ground because he misread the path of the baseball, that according to the tracker was a strike. Bottom of the knee, outside corner, and as the catcher went out for it, he kind of came out at the side, and as he caught it, it took his momentum down to the ground. And Papi hated it. And had that been at the the electronic thing, still would have been a strike. So end of the day, you're going to have goods on both sides. But again, great job by Joe West, and just an awesome thing between him and Nelson Cruz. Now, as we move on to the All-Star game,
that after Nelson Cruz got on base in that at bat, he also walked down the first baseline and gave a little bit of love to Angel Hernandez at first base, shook his hand, gave him a little hug, and then proceeded with the game. So
didn't take a picture. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Angel's gonna sue Nelson Cruz. I don't know. There might be a lawsuit brew.
Ouch. It's nice to see players giving love to umpires during the All-Star game when it's fun.
Yeah. So as we transition from the All-Star game, again, a great night, baseball tip of the cap. Another discussion we will have, but I will tell you right now, you have found the new face of your brand, and his name is Aaron Judge. He has the personality of Derek Jeter with the power of Aaron Judge.
Yeah, what do you say?
So it was just absolutely great. So we did this last year. We're going to move into it this year. I'm gonna go ahead and put you in the box. We've got obviously 2 more innings to go. We've got our midseason picks to take us through the rest of the season, and is where we think everything's going to end up. Or we have our midseason awards. You pick what you want first, and we'll finish off with the other one, man.
Well, let's go awards, since I think our midseason picks are going to take a little bit more time, and I don't want to run out of time for our midseason awards. So I guess I'll just go ahead and lead off. And I think you and I are pretty chalk on these awards. Let's start Cy Young. Cy Young is a great conversation, especially where we are in the season right now. It's a toss-up, I think, in both leagues. You and I had discussed that we have question marks in the American League for 3 pitchers, that being Dallas Keuchel, McCullers, and Chris Sale. I think.
I even thought Jason Vargas. I mean, yeah, I get he's had a great year, and it's probably he's going to be overshadowed by the dominance of Chris Sale. But Vargas has been no joke.
No, yeah, absolutely. I just think that you're right, that the dominance of Chris Sale is going to take him out of the picture. And in my opinion, realistically, I think you got to give Sale the benefit of the doubt to win this thing this year. He has, not only is what he's doing this year incredible, it is the comeback story of the year from a guy who a year ago this time was shredding uniforms in the locker room because he didn't want to wear them because he was on a team that he didn't want to play for.
Yeah, I mean, he's gone from shearing uniforms to shearing bats with high inside pitches. I had a chance to watch him last Thursday in Tampa. Dude, seeing him is crazy. I mean, he's a tall, lanky string bean who has legs that I feel like go on, I hate to say go on for days. That sounds really wrong. But, I mean, he's got to have like a 38. I mean, his inseam is huge.
Am I the only one who didn't realize how tall he was until he was standing next to the guy from Fox?
I knew how tall, he is.
Numbers-wise, I know how tall he is.
But I mean, you see him on the mound. It's just, you see these legs just driving forward. I feel like he's a guy who needs, big and tall pants, and then takes his sister's hair tie to wrap his shirt tail up because it hangs down so low. I mean, granted,
right.
He's making enough dough; he can have everything can be tailored. But you get my drift.
He's not a Randy Johnson where he was visibly tall on the mound.
Yeah,
he's got long legs, but
right. You see lanky. He's even. I mean, he's not quite like that country built the way that a guy like Bumgarner is, who
right.
Is tall and a lot of arm, but he has that same kind of crazy arm whip. But I had a chance to see him pitch. It is a thing of beauty. I mean, granted, he lost. They lost 4-1. He got taken deep by Wilson Ramos for one, who is the starting catcher now for the Rays after we said Derek Norris got DFA'd and he's been released. But the Rays took 3 out of 4. Something that we'll talk about coming up next week. But yeah, man. I mean, it was. I think Chris Sale. I hate to say it. I don't hate to say it, but out of some of the guys who are pitching as well as they are, it's Sale's health, the longevity that he has over guys like McCullers and Keuchel that are going to be the difference.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Chris Sale is probably the obvious choice. Now, in the National League, I think you and I are going to have a difference of opinion, much like the difference of opinion that we had at the end of last season, where you said it's going to be Scherzer, and I said that Bumgarner's got to get a look, and I wouldn't be upset if Scherzer won, but you got to look at Bumgarner for the Cy Young, and we're going to have a similar disagreement here. Scherzer is probably the guy at this point, but I don't think that you can really look at the year that Clayton Kershaw is having and say that he is not putting up a Cy Young type year.
100% agree.
They're neck and neck.
There's no logical way I can disagree with you on that. There's no logical way I can say you're wrong.
Let's just get into it real quick. I mean, Clayton Kershaw is 14-2. Wins, not a great method for choosing a Cy Young winner, although it will come into the conversation at some point. But he's 14-2 with a 2.18 ERA in 19 starts, 132 and a third innings pitched, with 159 strikeouts compared to, wait for it, 22 walks. So his strikeout to walk ratio at 7.23, strikeouts per 9 at 10.8. And the only thing that I think is holding him back from being the obvious choice is that he had his first multiple home run game this year in which he gave up more than one home run, and that's going to hurt him.
Is that what a multi-home run game means?
I think so. You look across the country at Max Scherzer, and you're talking about a guy who's 10-5 with known bullpen issues, right? We understand he has bullpen problems, but he's got a 2.10 ERA in 18 starts, 128 innings pitched, so he's going just a little bit deeper than Kershaw is at this point. But listen to this: 173 strikeouts and 27 walks. A 12.1 strikeouts per 9 and just a slightly lower strikeout to walk ratio at 6.41. But here's the two numbers that I wanted to give you cold before we discuss this off the air. I wanted to give you this cold on the air so you could react to it. Now, we talk about walks and hits per inning pitch, and we always say that if you can be right at 1 or say 105, you're probably doing a really good job, right?
And I just pulled Scherzer's number, so I've seen this one, but I'm scared to hear what Kershaw's is.
Scherzer's is .779, and despite the issues that he's had with his first multiple home run game and having a little bit higher ERA and a few more hits off of him, Clayton Kershaw is still recording a .877 whip at this point in the year. It is ridiculous to watch these two guys go. There's no doubt one of these two is the Cy Young. And in my opinion, Kershaw's ability to come back from an injury last year and have this kind of year again, and let's not forget, he came back from that injury last year and still ended up 5th in the voting. But for him to come back and have this type of year where he is an obvious choice, if there was no Max Scherzer in the league, there's not even a question here.
Well, I mean, obviously, Kershaw's back is healthy because he's thrown the Dodgers on it and just going ahead and carrying them to 61 wins and the best record in baseball right now. So no worries about Kershaw's back. I mean, to me, both are the hard thing here is we're not picking MVP, we're picking Cy Young. Right. And I don't think there's really any question to me that Kershaw is probably the best pitcher in the game. But Scherzer's dominance is just, you can't ignore it. And the thing that gets me, and I get you're not supposed to take this into consideration, but what really strikes me is the fact that Scherzer is having to go so deep into games. And yes, he has 10 wins and 5 losses. My question would be, how many of those were close games that maybe the bullpen lost for him? How many was he pulled out where, hey, we're within 1, we had the bats to do it, and then it gets blown open? One of them was, in Miami in the 9th inning, and he lost a game and didn't allow a single earned run. So, he is having to do a lot of this load himself. That, to me, is the most impressive. Like you said, he's sitting 15 innings, almost a game and a half, full game and a half higher than the nearest starting pitcher in Gio Gonzalez in inning pitched, who's at 113. And that entire staff, the starting staff is still decent. Tanner Roark's, 6-6. But at the end of the day, when you think of, man, who's the best? Max Scherzer is the guy that comes to mind because, you get the grunt. You feel like you're at Wimbledon almost. I mean, he kind of snarls at you. He's going to dominate you. He wants to embarrass you, and he's not afraid to admit it. And then at the end of the day, he enjoys it.
He's the third Williams sister. Did you hear him last night? Yeah. And good on him, man. He was airing it out. Him and Chris Sale both. They were like, you know what? I'm going to pitch an inning. And Chris Sale's like, I'm going to pitch two innings. And they aired it out, man. They really reared back, and they went after it. Scherzer was pitching 98 miles an hour last night.
And he's going to start.
We know he's got it
again this Saturday. Yeah, he starts this Saturday. So
we know he's got that kind of speed, and we know he's got that kind of power. But to watch him just put it on display in the first inning like that, it's something to watch. So all right, I'm going to do something a little different for the Cy Young right now.
Okay.
And I'm going to go Kershaw/Scherzer.
Okay. So we're handing out co-Cy Youngs. I feel like you just pulled an anchor man where we're not co-workers, we're just co-people. Like, are you going to pick? Is it Scherzer / Kershaw with some Yaz flute?
No. It's not Scherzer / Kershaw. It's Kershaw.
/
Scherzer. Yes.
Which is hard to say.
Taking Kershaw. I'm taking Kershaw.
Okay.
But I have to look at what Max Scherzer's doing and say there's every possibility that he's going to get it again.
Right.
It'll be his second in a row, and there's a possibility that maybe Kershaw earns his fourth in his career.
I mean, he's already won a Cy Young in both leagues. He started an All-Star game for both leagues. It's just impressive. Rookie of the Year, don't really need to debate. There's a guy named Judge and a guy named Bellinger, and that's sealed up.
Yeah, done.
So here's some fun ones, all right? And we'll go ahead and leave the MVP for last. Manager of the Year. Now, I understand that obviously last week on the show, which again you can find guys at OO Left Field on Twitter and on our Facebook page, Out of Left Field with Chris and Graham. Of course, find all of our podcasts and a bunch of other shows and articles on every sport you can pretty much think of except for cricket over at thegruelingtruth.net. So Manager of the Year, and we discussed this with Adnan Virk a couple of weeks ago, who I luckily found a chance to go down and see him in Miami. It was great to do. Thank you for having me down there. Really enjoyed it, my friend. I told you that I thought A.J. Hinch would be Manager of the Year, but that if things kept kind of staying par as they were, that Paul Molitor of the Twinkies had a really good chance of probably taking that spot because of how just blown away we were by what the Twins were doing. Now, they have fallen back. The Indians have assumed command of the AL Central, and I don't believe there's going to be any taking that back from the Indians. So I do go ahead and I'm going to leave A.J. Hinch as my AL Manager of the Year. And I mean, my thing right now with Dusty Baker, I would love to put him with the way the Nationals are playing, but the bullpen is awful. They should be better than they are, and they're in one of the worst divisions in the game right now. So Dusty Baker, I scratch. Buddy Black, you could say the way that the Rockies are playing could be a worthy piece. But I'm going to go Craig Counsell from the Brewers. They've been holding on to the NL Central. They're not giving it up. The Cubbies are struggling. Right now they're tied with the Cardinals for second place in the NL Central, and the Brewers have quietly just been maintaining control of that division. So World Series winner from the Diamondbacks, Craig Counsell, as Manager of the Year in the National League, and A.J. Hinch, Manager of the Year in the American League, is who I've got.
Well, I'm going to be 100% honest with you, man. You and I are pretty much chalk on this, so I don't think that there's an argument against A.J. Hinch at this point. I think that for what he's done with the Astros this year is so far above and beyond even what anybody expected from what was obviously going to be a good Astros team that you have to look at him and say, well, that's probably the guy. Now, I will say this, and you're going to shake your head and your dad's going to disown me, but
finally,
for having a young, inexperienced team that no one expected to do anything this year, Joe Girardi's done a fantastic job with the Yankees in the Bronx, and you can't take it away from him. I don't know that it's good enough for him to get Manager of the Year, because what A.J. Hinch has done in Houston is incredible. But you got to kind of look at Joe Girardi and be like, wow, he's put in a pretty good bid.
I can't complain there, and I think the reason that I give the nod to AJ over a guy like Joe, and John Farrell, yes, the Red Sox were coming up, but the Red Sox were expected to be this good. You could even say, if it keeps going, that Kevin Cash should be in discussion from the Tampa Bay Rays. But the thing with A.J. Hinch is, unlike the Cubs last year, where you and I both thought that Joe Madden should have taken that award home, the Cubbies were expected to do over 100 wins. We expected the Astros to play well and to secure the divisional title in the AL West.
Well,
we did not expect 60 games at the All-Star break.
I think we expected them to play spoiler to one of the top teams in the West. I think at the beginning of the year, I think we gave the edge to the Texas Rangers in that division.
I don't believe so. I'll go back and check the tape, and we'll come back to that here next week. But I'm pretty certain that we went ahead.
We did expect them to play quite well and make a run for that division. I don't think we expected them to dominate the division the way they have. So yeah, I'm going to go AJ Hinch in the American League as my manager of the year. Now, manager of the year in the National League to me is a little more open. Now, I think Craig Counsell takes it because what he's managed to do with a Brewers team that everybody looked at the beginning of the year and went, oh, they're probably a fourth place team.
And I think their big player in Eric Thames was a snub that homer. I would have loved to see him at the home run derby. It is unfortunate that with 8 spots he didn't make it in. You'll be surprised, but had you given me an option, I might have even taken him over Bellinger. If I had looking back now, what I know, I would leave Bohr in, and I might replace Bellinger with Thames.
Yeah, and I would love to see Thames in that. I don't know that I would have wanted him to take Bellinger's spot, possibly Sano.
Well, I don't think he takes Sano because it's American League, and I believe it was supposed to be 4-4. I have to go back and look, but either way, he has been on a tear. Thames will be the comeback player of the year.
Even Moose, I could have watched Thames over Moose.
AL, NL again.
But
so what you're saying is trade Eric Thames for 2 days to an American League team, replace him, and then trade him back and call it square. Just for the home run derby.
Well, yeah, but still. Anyway, so I think Craig Counsell takes it, but, and there's a huge but. First of all, you have to look at Dave Roberts. Because, yes, he won it last year, but what the Dodgers are doing right now, and by the way, doing very quietly, right? They're not doing it with the explosive sort of splash that the Astros are doing it. The Dodgers have very quietly just won and won and won.
And they're dominating baseball.
Yeah, they're the number 1 team in the league right now. If they maintain this, they're going to be well over 100 wins at the end of this season. Odds-on favorites to win the National League, in my opinion. And I really think that you have to look at Dave Roberts in coming back and doing it again, right?
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Also, what about the Diamondbacks, man? What about Torey Lovullo and what he's done with that Diamondbacks team?
That was the one team I wanted to leave for you because, your backyard, and I think you could make an easy case that all 3 of those managers out of the West deserve a strong look for this award.
I almost give Lovullo the nod if he didn't have so many problems managing his bullpen. Now, the sort of rant that I went on last show where I got a little upset at having watched him mismanage that bullpen, despite winning. You can't continue, and Joe Madden will probably be the first person to stand up and say, no, this is true. It's difficult to continue to win at a high level if you mismanage your bullpen. And it almost cost Joe Madden an NLCS and a World Series last year, the mismanagement of his bullpen, and his players rightly got on him about it. Torey Lovullo is making similar mistakes in Arizona, and I can't help but think it's going to catch up to him, which is why I have to step back, even though they're in my backyard, and I do have a soft spot for them. I have to step back and objectively look at the Brewers and Craig Counsell and say that he's probably my manager of the year right now.
Which leaves us then with the most enjoyable awards, and that's going to be the most valuable player of baseball. And again, to me, I mentioned this a month or two ago that I think it was a possibility, and I think now you could pretty much almost give it a guarantee that Aaron Judge will win Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same year in the American League. I do believe that he will take home both pieces of hardware.
Yeah, and I mean, come on, man. What, you going to give it to Mike Trout again? Mike Trout's having a monster year, but Mike Trout has a monster year every year. Mike Trout is being Mike Trout right now, and even though he's been injured, before he was injured, he was being Mike Trout. And I'm sure he's going to come back from this injury, and he's going to be Mike Trout again. But I don't think that 2 months miss on an injury can lead you to an MVP. Unless
the only way, and I can see it. I can see it happening because of the way the voters think. The only way I could see Mike Trout actually being able to take this award would be if he comes back and the Angels can go on a run and actually edge out the Rays, who I think will end up being a wild card piece. If the Angels can work their way into a wild card spot in a division such as the AL West, and right now they're I think 3 or 4 games out of the wild card, if I remember correctly. If they can work their way into a playoff spot and they are able to hold par, and then Trout comes back and they go on a run, I could still see people going ahead and say, well, Judge is going to be Rookie of the Year, but let's give Trout the MVP. Let's make sure we don't want to give it to the same guy. I could see it happening, but at the end of the day, it would bother me because I do believe that Aaron Judge, without a doubt, is the best player in baseball. He's the best player in that league as far as hitter and what he's doing for a team.
I think the only way I could vote for Trout at this point is if he comes back and hits over 500 through the rest of the season and literally
it's a home run every at bat.
And literally takes that team into the postseason from a position of them not going to the postseason and actually causes them to go to the postseason. That's the only way I can really see voting for Mike Trout at this point. Aaron Judge is he's killing it. I mean, he's having a monster year. Now,
which then opens us to the National League, and that again, similar to the AL Cy Young, is open by. I mean, there's quite a few that we could look at. I know one that actually was kind of my first thought that wouldn't have made sense is your favorite player in Buster Posey, and I know you're going to talk about him, possible candidate, and people might roll their eyes, but as much as you roll your eyes, even coming from me, Posey makes sense to be considered. He does, and Chris is going to tell you why. The 4 that I had when I first started thinking of guys that I'm going to put in there were the big 3 in Washington. That's Murphy, Zim, and Harper. And then the last guy is your own backyard again. That's Paul Goldschmidt. And after looking at all the numbers, yes, I love what Harper is doing. Harper is having an MVP-type year, but it makes me wonder, is having guys like Zimmerman and Murphy maybe helping him a tad? While Paul Goldschmidt is kind of, I don't want to say by himself, but he is having, he's been second in the MVP voting twice. And I'm going to go ahead and say 2017, Paul Goldschmidt, you're taking home your first National League most valuable player hardware with the Arizona Diamondbacks. With what you're doing and how that team is playing behind your bat and the leadership that you're showing, Goldie is my choice for MVP.
So exactly the argument that you made about Bryce Harper and the same piece of reasoning that you just used to pick Paul Goldschmidt, which, by the way, I think is an incredibly nuanced and intelligent choice because he is sort of.
Can I get someone to mark the tape here, Mike? Good pastor. Mark the tape, date and time, 7:25 p.m. on 7/12/17. Nuanced and intelligent just came out of Chris Furry's mouth about moi. Thank you. Folks, we'll see you next week.
But exactly that argument that you made to justify your choosing of Paul Goldschmidt, who really is kind of all by himself out here in the West, is exactly the same reason why I have to look at Buster Posey, right? Because Bryce Harper is having a monster year. He's hitting .325, a .431 on base, slugging .590. He's got 65 ribbies and 20 dingers. Now, you look across the country at the Bay Area, and you look at Buster Posey, and in my opinion, very quietly, with very little splash, and in much the same way that Paul Goldschmidt is, without much fanfare, Buster Posey.
Because with McCovey Cove, there's a lot of splashes that happen in San Francisco.
Yeah, but he's right-handed, so it's
true.
Hard for him to get the ball over the brick wall.
Yeah, an Oppo splash show? Come on now.
But without a lot of fanfare, much the same way that Paul Goldschmidt is, Buster Posey's hitting .324 with a .406 on base, slugging .498 with an OPS of .904. Those are MVP numbers. Those are absolutely MVP numbers. Here's the issue, and here's the problem that I have with Buster Posey, and the reason why I feel like I can't choose him, although a strong case could be made for him. He's got 10 home runs, and he's got 35 ribbies. Now, he did have a strange run in May where he hit 3 or 4 home runs in a row, back-to-back games, and they were all one-run shots. Now,
wasn't one of them the walk-off in that godforsaken 16-inning game?
Yeah, the one where he hit the home run and he just rolled his eyes in relief.
Just looked, yeah.
So that's going to hurt his ribby numbers because he's hitting these balls out of the park with no runners on base. And he's getting on base with no runners in scoring position. And you can't really hold that against him. RBI is a hard number to hold against somebody. But you have to, as good as he is, he's not a power guy, right? He hits home runs when he needs to, but he's not a hit the ball out of the park type guy like Bryce Harper is. And ladies love the long ball. I think the number of home runs he's hit gives Bryce Harper the edge, but let's not forget that he's only 14 dingers below where he was when he won the MVP in 2012. He ended that season with 24 home runs, and Bryce Harper's almost there halfway through the year. So
and I want to throw one crazy thing out at you. Of all the guys we've mentioned, even including Bryce Harper, you know who has the most stolen bases out of that group? Paul Goldschmidt has 13 swiped bags this year. Harper has 2.
Yeah, Paul Goldschmidt's fast, man. People don't look at Paul Goldschmidt and say, well, that's fast first baseman, but he's a fast first baseman.
Yeah.
And a lot of his ability to steal is based on the fact that he doesn't look like he's going to do it. And he does. But this is the majority of my case for why Buster Posey should at least be given consideration. He's got the numbers, right? But he's not making a big splash because in his at-bats, in 318 plate appearances this season, he's hit with 201 runners on base. To give you an idea, in less than twice as many at-bats in his MVP season, he hit with 429 runners on base, more than double the number that he's at now halfway through the season. So if it continues this way, he's actually on pace to hit with as many or fewer runners on base than he had last season when he was having a terrible down year. So it's not just Posey that you have to look at. You have to look at what he's doing. So the argument that you made in order to choose Paul Goldschmidt over Bryce Harper, I think is an extremely valid one because he's doing it behind guys like Murphy and Zimmerman who are also having monster years. So I'm taking Bryce Harper because I think he's the odds-on favorite. But I have to make a case for Buster Posey because like Paul Goldschmidt, he's very quietly and with very little fanfare having an MVP-type year.
And I cannot disagree again. I mean, we're seeing from Bryce this, is he going to be a bust? I'm happy to see Bryce Harper playing as well as he is. I am curious to see now with the kind of emergence of Aaron Judge if the Yankees do make the same kind of run at Bryce Harper as both, I believe, are playing right field. And it makes you wonder, would you make somebody move? What would happen? And I think that Harper's attitude is much different than Judge, shall we say.
I mean, wouldn't the smartest thing be? I thought the Yankees' plan was to just let go of their center and left fielders and put Judge in the outfield and call it good.
just let his 6'7" for just gazelle around the outfield.
Just range around the outfild. I mean, it's not like they need the defense.
You just gave me a pirouette hands. I wish everyone could have seen that. But no, I agree. I mean, I do think the crazy thing is that, like you said, Posey's numbers, it is so far overshadowed because of the tumultuous season that the Giants have had, which has just been an absolute embarrassment to the Bay City. And I'm not. I mean, it's not what you expected you were going to get from these guys coming into 2017. But there are plenty of guys to look for. Probably 5 you could look for. Even you could throw Bellinger into it. I think he's much more Rookie of the Year than MVP material. There are too many guys around him. Joey Votto even should be a guy. Joey Votto should be considered. The problem is, as much as we talk about, yes, it shouldn't matter, if a team is contending. The problem right now is that Votto, Zimmerman, and Goldie's numbers are so similar, which we discussed a couple of weeks ago when we went over who our picks were going to be for the All-Star Game starting positions, which we did pretty doggone good. I mean, at the end of the day, I think Miguel Sano is the one guy we didn't, that we missed because he didn't come in as a third baseman.
There was that guy Springer. We didn't have Springer on our list either.
Yes.
I don't.
No, I could take a look. I think we were pretty good in the outfield, but either way, I mean, it was, at the end of the day, the numbers are so similar. I think at that point you will look at Votto and go, well, his team isn't performing the way that that we want an MVP's team to perform, and he'll get overlooked. So
we expect that team to perform. We expected the Reds to be better than they are right now. Not contenders necessarily,
not by much, and they're
better
still
than
kind
they're
of
doing.
I mean, and they're still kind of trying to hold court, and where they are. And I think the difficulty right now is that they're in a division that went from being the most powerful division last year and to being probably the most confusing division in Major League Baseball this season. We're not expecting what was going to happen. That takes us into our second half predictions to take us all the way down. Now, obviously, this is kind of what we think is going to happen. Once all the trade deadlines come through, that's when we'll go ahead and give you wild card the whole 9 yards. But I think for the most part, we can pretty much call chalk on a good chunk of this. The Nationals are going to win the East. The Dodgers, I feel comfortable in emotionally to say the Dodgers will win the NL West. I'm fairly confident.
Is it the best in the Major League record or the 7.5 game lead over another team who's also one of the best in major leagues? Which one of those makes you comfortable?
It's right around there, plus having one of the best pitchers in baseball. It's, those kind of little things just kind of adds up to making you feel comfortable about picking a team for a divisional win.
I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but the 53 wins that the Arizona Diamondbacks have is good enough for third best in Major League Baseball right now, and behind the Dodgers and the Astros, and they're 7.5 games behind the Dodgers at this point.
Yeah.
Third best in the league, 7.5 games behind the division leader. What?
Yeah, it's crazy. And, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, I think there's a strong possibility that, I mean, you and I thought it was crazy last year that we had one team or one division, rather, that had 3 teams in the postseason. I think it's a very strong possibility that we will have twice now that that we actually will get the chance to see 2 divisions from each league with 3 teams in. I think that the Diamondbacks and the Rockies have a good chance of making it. But here's my caveat. I think the Cubs will end up finding their rhythm coming down the stretch and will overtake the Brewers as the best team in the Central. My concern then sits at the way the Rockies have been playing, or lack thereof, as they have finished out, luckily 5-5, where the D-backs were 3-7 in their last 10. But really, the way that we have seen the Rockies precipitously slide, the Rockies, I could see, and again, none of this is in stone until the trade deadline, I could see the Rockies slipping far enough down that the Brewers go ahead and take a wild card spot, and we don't get those 3 behemoths that we thought were coming out of the NL West. They kind of begin to go back down to normal size. but we still get the Dodgers and the D-backs. I think you had a little bit different idea coming out of the Central and the wild card, but you go there and then take us into the American League.
So here's my deal with the Cubs, man. They're gonna have to do something about their ability to play on the road. They're 6 games under 500 on the road right now. They're only 4 games over 500 at home. You translate into what the Brewers are doing. Yeah, they're 3 games over 500 at home, but they're 6 games over 500 on the road right now, which is huge. If the Brewers can just figure out a way to win more games at home and maintain on the road, they're the clear favorites, in my opinion, to win that division. I think Milwaukee figures it out at home, picks that division up, wins it, and at this point, with St. Louis and the Cubs tied neck and neck, I got to think that going into the second half, the Cardinals make a run. Now, I'm not going to give the Cardinals the wild card at this point, but I'm not giving it to the Cubs either. I think you're right. I think we see 3 teams from the West, the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, and the Rockies. Look, 7.5 games, even with 81 games left, 7.5 games is a lot to make up. And both the Cardinals and the Cubs are 7.5 games out of the wild card behind the Colorado Rockies. I just don't see it. I don't see them making it up. Not the way if the Rockies can just get back on pace, on the pace that they were before, which was blistering, I just don't see them picking it up. So I'm going Dodgers, Brewers.
You're basically chalk the way it is right now in the National League.
I am. I think
okay.
the season ends the way it looks now. The American League, we're pretty much chalking the American League. I think we see 3 teams from the East in Boston, New York, and Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, I mean, good for them. Good for them. They're having a monster year. I think they figure it out and continue to do so. Baltimore's just floundering at this point. Toronto is out of it, in my opinion. Cleveland, I think you're right. Cleveland takes that division, holds on to it through the end of the year. They've finally found a way to win both at home and on the road. They are 10 games over 500 on the road. That is an incredible number. Not quite as incredible as what Houston's doing on the road, but still. Houston has actually 3 times as many wins on the road as they do losses. They're 33-11 on the road. That's ridiculous.
Not bad.
They obviously not only win the West, but I think are the odds-on favorite to win the American League at this point.
I'm going to give you one change, and again,
the Twinkies make a case
where I go
for the second wild card at this point.
That's where I'm at. I could see if the Rays and guys, we're going to have Dwayne Statz, who's the play-by-play guy for the Rays, on here in the next couple of weeks, the next 3 or 4 weeks, hopefully, and hopefully a couple of more guests that we're excited to bring to you. We will let you know when that gets finalized, if we can make everything work out. If the Rays do what they have done so often before, and that's really tail off at the end. Now, they love to play spoiler, but I think that there is a possibility, depending on what the Rays do at the deadline, that if the Twins stand pat, right now they're 45-43 and the Rays are 47-43, so only 2-game difference, that there is a possibility that the Rays could drop themselves out of wild card contention, and the Twins could make the playoffs. If the Twins make the playoffs, that again will play very handily into our manager of the year discussion, where then it makes you wonder, okay, if the Twinkies are able to hold tight and stave off all this craziness and make a wild card run, then Paul Molitor is going to get a much heavier look from me as a manager of the year in the AL. That's something we can get to in the next couple of months as we get towards October and the postseason of 2017.
I agree. In fact, I think I'm probably going to go chalk with you and give the Twinkies the benefit of the doubt in that wild card. But I want to say this, and this is a little out of left field, but that's what we're here for.
We do that around here.
I don't think at this point, a game and a half out of the wild card, you can completely discount the Kansas City Royals and the sheer will to win of guys like Lorenzo Cain. He is among the more passionate players I've seen play the game. I watched him.
Agent. He might get moved.
I watched him play against the Dodgers in a losing effort the other night, and he came up with the bases loaded, called out looking on a questionable strike call, was so fired up about it that he actually got dumped on his way out to the field and out later, walking out to his position in center field.
By Bill Miller, yep.
Right. Arguing the call, still an out later, fired up about it, got dumped. Look, that kind of passion eventually is going to translate into a fire in the clubhouse, and it has all year. The reason the Kansas City Royals, at this point, in my opinion, are where they are in the position to be able to take over that second wild card slot is because of guys like Lorenzo Cain who are young and fiery. And
that's what you expect to see from guys like Eric Hosmer. I don't know if I could go as far as the Royals. I do want to say one thing as we get ready to go, and I meant to bring this up to you.
They're only half a game behind the Twinks.
The defending World Series champions are the Chicago Cubs, right? Can't believe we're still saying it, but we are. Anthony Rizzo, Javi Baez, Kyle Schwarber, Ben Zobrist, Jason Hayward. You know what all those guys have in common?
What?
They didn't make the All-Star team, and the only Cub to do so was Wade Davis.
Who, by the way, gave up a long ball that was the deciding run in the game in the 10th inning by Robbie Cano.
And if that isn't the Cubby season in a nutshell in the All-Star game, there isn't a whole lot that really is. On the bright side, though, it doesn't determine home field advantage, so there's still a chance if weird things happen, the Cubbies home field at Wrigley if they somehow manage to come back to the World Series. Don't think it's going to happen, but the beauty of it, guys, we still have 2.5 months of regular season baseball here in 2017 to go through before we get into October and what's going to be just some of the greatest playoffs in Major League sports. Man, I had a great time. It's been a fantastic week. All-Star break is almost over. We're back into baseball, second half. Man, we're, 2.5 weeks away from the trade deadline. Things are going to get crazy. Guys are going to get moved, new colors, new scenes, new teams in the postseason. All that's going to be coming to you in the second half, and we will be here with you, taking you all the way through. For everyone at the Grueling Truth Network and for Chris, I'm Graham. See you next week on Out of Left Field.